do you really want to live in the demented world of the left? Now, this isn't a segment that has any particular coherency other than look at all this demented stuff the left are doing. This is the world they're creating. Is this the world you want to live in? Because it's really not the world I want to live in, right? And like I said, this is just stuff that keeps coming across my timeline every day. It's just like, look at this crazy nonsense. So I thought we'd share some of it. But before we go on, if you want to support us, go sign up to lotus.com and check out Harry's latest article, The Anatomy of a Communist. This is really good because he's got a particular little line in here that really summarizes everything about the left these days, right? What is this social vision that communists wish to impose? It seems to be the ultimate emancipation of humanity from nature, the forces that tie us together and those that constrain us from achieving true liberty, defined as the expressive ability to do or be whatever we want at any time without any moral judgment from our peers. That's correct. That is the ultimate aim of the left writ large, and Harry's got it right. And so we'll begin with transgenderism. The ultimate expression of being freed from our natural constraints. Facebook are struggling with it. Turns out that Facebook and Instagram are filled with TERFs. Did you know that?
No.
So Meta's oversight board, I'm joking about them being filled with TERFs. they don't know that they're TERFs. That's the best kind of TERF, actually. This is the independent body of experts, which Mark Zuckerberg has called the company's Supreme Court for moderation, have ordered Facebook and Instagram to lift a ban on images of topless women for anyone who identifies as transgender or non-binary, meaning they view themselves as non-binary, meaning neither male nor female. The same image of female-presenting nipples would be prohibited if posted by a cisgender woman, but permitted if posted by an individual identifying as non-binary, they noted in the decision.
Just say you're non-binary.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
Anything you want it to mean.
No, it doesn't. It means something specific. If a woman, a cisgender woman, can't post her breasts, because that would be obscene and indecent, on Facebook's platform, then if a trans woman posts their breasts, and that's not obscene...
I get it now. They're obviously not a woman.
Exactly. That's a man's boob. That's fine. Very turfy. But anyway, in other places, however, they aren't quite as turfy, which is a shame. For example, a small place in America called Santee. This is a young woman called Rebecca Phillips, 17 years old, visited the YMCA there to work out after work, as she routinely does. But after she had a shower, she encountered a naked man inside the women's locker as she was showering. She, being 17, was a bit freaked out by this, ran into a stall to hide and change, before informing the staff of the naked man just freely using the women's locker room. And the staff said the man who claims to be transgender is allowed to shower wherever he wants. It's just fine. I know you're a 17-year-old girl and you're naked in the shower, but this naked guy over here, there's nothing to worry about there. What are you talking about?
Oh, I wish I was 15 again.
Well, I was going to call this guy a predator, so maybe we won't go down that road. But since he identifies as a girl, the naked man chose to use the women's locker room. And so when Miss Phillips went and complained about this, she was told she was the bad person for raising it.
She's a bigot.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. She's an out turf. How dare she? She explained that underage minors and her siblings frequent that YMCA and the women's locker room, and so obviously this means that young girls will be exposed to naked adult men. And the YMCA spokesman was like, well, we're dedicated to, quote, diversity, inclusion and equity.
The only way you stop this is sensible people stop using the facilities and go find another gym that aligns with what they want.
Or the sensible people in charge decide maybe I'm going to be sensible and actually not allow naked men to wander around with young children, young girls.
That takes bravery, and
it's crazy that takes bravery. I mean, that just seems normal, right?
We're lacking in that.
Yeah.
We're lacking in that because you won't get into trouble going down the trans path. You may get into trouble going down the cis path.
Well, yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, Rebecca Phillips, congratulations for being so brave as to being able to have the gall to stand up and criticize this, because of course she's only 17, and now she's becoming like international news story.
Did you see the video from maybe 6 months ago? Girl, again, British girl, about 17, goes into Primark. There's a guy in there changing. She comes out crying, does a TikTok video. You can tell she's still crying. She has been crying, and she was saying what's happened, and she's all for diversity and he should be in there and he should be using it, but I was scared. I don't know what to do. But he should be in there. He should be in there because he sees himself as a woman.
I didn't see that, no.
And you can see her having this mental breakdown on her own phone because she wants him in there because she's a good person.
She's been programmed.
But she doesn't want him in there because every fibre of her being is going, this won't end well, get out. And she's like... And she has this breakdown.
Well, that was exactly what Philip's position was. She was afraid because it is scary, I imagine, for a teenage girl to have a naked man wandering around in a private space where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
You know, you're making yourself very vulnerable in
Yes.
the locker rooms by changing and washing in there. Obviously, you expect some provision that will prevent. And again, if men didn't have any sexual interest in women, then okay, maybe this wouldn't be a concern, but they do and always will. So this is not something that can be
History
tolerated.
teaches
What
men will do to women if they know they can get away with it.
It doesn't even bear thinking about. So anyway, the same thing is of course happening in the UK because the Scottish government were like, hey, why don't we write a bill that means that people can just say that they're the other gender so we can do the same thing over here.
Yeah.
And because the SNP is a congenitally woke party, it took the British government to step in and say, no, we're not going to allow this. Have you been following this one?
I have.
Yeah.
But did you know that this trans right bill in Scotland came out of 10 Downing Street with Theresa May?
Did it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
When Theresa May was Prime Minister, this was her policy.
Amazing.
That the British government then dropped, and the Scottish government said, well, we're going to carry on with it.
God, the Conservatives are just the worst.
Yes, they are.
They are just the worst. See, I don't even blame the SNP. Like, the SNP were like, hey, we're like woke Nazis. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. And the Conservatives are like, hey, we're not woke Nazis, but we're going to do everything woke Nazis want. It's like, why? But anyway, so the UK government has blocked this bill because they said the draft law would conflict with equality protections applying across Great Britain. And Nicola Sturgeon, of course, is huffing and puffing about this, saying this is a full frontal attack on the Scottish Parliament. And it's like, oh God, I wish it was. I wish they would engage in a full frontal attack on the Scottish Parliament by just abolishing it, defund it, get rid of it, bulldoze the location and build something nice over it. And have you seen the Scottish Parliament? It's the ugliest building in the world.
I have seen it. I didn't have an opinion one way or the other.
It's gross. But they're gonna fight to the death. She says Scottish ministers would defend the bill. This is the hill they're going to die on. Look, if men can't be in women's spaces, then we don't even need to be in government anymore.
I don't think that's the hill she's going to die on. The hill she's dying on is, look at what the English are doing now. They're overruling the Scottish government, the Scottish Parliament. Look what the English are doing.
The English are preventing Scottish nonces from getting access to naked children. I can't believe they do this. But anyway, it's not all gravy over down in England. Things are crazy in Scotland. But of course, we're still paying Stonewall $1 million a year.
This shocked me, this did. I thought this had stopped.
I thought this had stopped. Like, they said that they were going to stop doing this, but this is why the Conservative Party is just basically a party of traitors at this point. Like, they'll say something, but they'll completely do the opposite.
Yeah.
The Taxpayers Alliance discovered that they were handing over Stonewall £1.2 million of taxpayer money a year.
Yep. Less than other years, but it should be zero.
Yeah, it should be zero. Yes, exactly. It should be zero. In fact, the net amount of money that they get from Stonewall should be, in fact, negative. You know, the Stonewall should be giving them money. But anyway, let's move on, because we're not done with the trans madness. You know there's such a thing as a trans baby?
I saw a little bit of this, yeah.
Trans baby.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a trans baby. Right? There's just no such thing. Medical students at Harvard are being taught how to care for infant, meaning up to 12 months old, who identify as LGBTQIA+. Lesbian babies.
Yep.
Got a gay or trans baby? No, you don't. You do not.
Did you see the bit where they say, I'm not saying it was in this report, but it was to do with this, that infants know their sexuality because baby girls want to suck their mother's breasts. So they're obviously dealing with their lesbianism as an infant.
That's incredibly Freudian.
And baby boys, it's quite common to see them playing with their willies. So they're experimenting with their homosexuality.
Oh, so they're gay.
It's like, you guys are just mental.
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely insane. And any parent will be able to tell you how insane that is. But anyway, students at the school were given clinical exposure and education will focus on serving gender and sexual minority people across the lifespan from infants to older adults. So from birth, this gay baby, the gay trans baby, gay, trans, queer, two-spirit, all number of things. According to the description for caring for patients with diverse sexual orientations, gender identities, and sex development, students will work in both hospitals with the communities, and a spokesperson from Harvard Medical School said this. As part of our MD curriculum, HMS offers a 4-week elective course that educates and trains medical students to provide high-quality, culturally responsive care for patients with diverse sexual orientations, gender identities, and sex development across the age spectrum. So it's basically the same as the YMCA, where they're like, no, we're a diverse and inclusive woke cult organisation. Don't you know?
The word that jumps out of there is culturally diverse.
Yeah, culturally responsive, but they mean the same thing.
We don't know what I know what they mean by that.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily mean African culture or Japanese culture.
Well, African culture wouldn't accept the idea of a gay baby, probably.
Exactly. What they mean there is LBGT culture.
They mean woke Western.
Yeah. That's exactly what they mean there.
Yeah, but it gets better than trans babies. We can do better than trans babies, can't we?
Trans fetuses.
That's right. That's
Oh,
exactly
you're
right. No, I'm
joking.
not joking.
Oh,
trans fetuses.
I was
We
being
get the next one.
facetious.
I know, of course you were, but that's only because you didn't realise how bad this can get. Boston's Children's Hospital saying children can know that they're transgender from in the womb.
And they're still having abortions.
I guess this is
That's
the strongest.
transphobic.
It's transgenocide.
Yes.
If transgender babies are getting aborted, there's got to be some sort of transgenocide. Am I wrong? But they posted a video to their YouTube channel in August, where a psychologist explains that a good portion of the children she sees at the hospital's gender multi-speciality service clinic know their gender identity from the womb. How can she know that?
There's no such thing as gender identity.
Well, I mean, I can accept the idea that there is a kind of thing called gender identity, that a sentient person who's wandering around and experiencing the world and recognizing the biological differences in themselves to someone else and the social roles that come with and responsibilities that come with that, you could call that a gender identity. Fine, right? But a fetus, a baby in the womb, certainly doesn't understand any of this.
Especially when they're just clumps of cells.
Yeah, exactly. They're just clumps of cells. It's barely even a heartbeat. There's no conscious. Don't be ridiculous. So anyway, this is absolutely ridiculous and no, total nonsense. Anyway, moving on from that, let's talk about what an adult is allowed to do in Canada. Now, you and I grew up in a culture that thought drinking was fine, because it's always been the case, but maybe taking crack is less fine. Why don't we restrict alcohol consumption and legalise crack, though? That would be progressive, wouldn't it?
It would.
Justin Trudeau has decided that they've introduced some of the strictest guidelines on alcohol consumption in the West, just weeks before Canada will decriminalise heroin and crack cocaine in parts of the country. You've got to understand, right? Alcohol's bad for you.
Just nothing it just doesn't make sense. I could understand them doing things that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Because and I'd like to make a case.
Yeah.
Like abortion, things can be complicated, but you just look at these things and you
It's
think,
not terribly complicated, this one, though, is it?
no, it's not. I can understand reducing how much alcohol, if they shouldn't be doing it, but I can understand why they'd want to.
Yeah.
But then we're going to decriminalise crack and heroin. It's like, what are you doing?
Because we really like heroin addicts. Because they vote for Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party, probably. Obviously, they don't vote for anyone. Now, it is, just to be clear, these are guidelines, as in they recommend no more than 2 drinks per week. I mean, I don't drink really, but that seems stingy to me. 2 drinks a week? We can have 1 beer on Wednesday and 1 beer on Sunday. But they say no amount of alcohol is safe, and concludes that drinking less is better. And if you must drink, 2 drinks maximum each week is deemed low risk. But at the same time, they're liberalising their policy on hard drug use. They say that the decision decriminalising possession of small amounts of cocaine, MDMA, and opioids in the Western Territory has been made in the hopes of stemming its record number of drug overdose deaths. I don't think that's going to help.
It doesn't help.
No.
Did you read about the guy in Toronto who's opening up a drug shop?
No.
So they all know this is coming.
Yep.
And he's been in the press saying the day the day it becomes decriminalised, he's got a shop and he's going to be selling crack and heroin, even though he reckons he's going to get arrested. He said, and we'll work it all out in court. Because
Which they will, yeah.
If you decriminalise it, I should be able to sell it.
Well, the policy will take effect on the 31st of January this year and apply to drug users over the age of 18. So at least there's some restriction there. Like, you've got to be 18 years old before you can start getting addicted to heroin, according to the Canadian government. Mental. But then the Canadian government is actually the 6th leading cause of death in Canada, which is something that I don't think enough people are talking about. More Canadians are ending their lives in medically assisted death than ever before. 10,000 people were killed by the government last year, which is just crazy. That's 32% more than in 2020. I say last year, sorry, 2021, not 2022.
But 98% of them are truckers.
I bet they are. I bet they are. Yeah.
I don't want to do it. This way, Mr. Jenkins.
Also, I'd like to donate my money to the government. Yeah, and the thing is, they also are harvesting organs from the people who they kill. Now, they do say in here that, well, these people are voluntarily signing up to have their organs.
Yeah.
But I do strongly think that there is a kind of institutional bias in favour of you killing yourself so they can get access to your organs. Don't you know other people need those organs? Minorities need those organs. You know, there are oppressed Indigenous people who need those organs. And you are depressed. And you are, you know, having trouble getting up the stairs. So why don't you kill yourself, which is what one disabled woman was told. And so the continual incentive is an incentive structure is a very concerning one, because it turns out that actually a person is worth more dead than alive to the Canadian government.
The Nazis also worked that out.
Yeah, I think this is a terrible incentive. If you want to donate your organs, fine. I don't think the government should be able to kill you. And the thing is, I don't even disagree. Like, okay, if you want to get it privately done or something, fine. You know, then you've at least got to pay for it, and there's not going to be like a state bureaucrat who's literally pricing you up.
Yeah.
At the end of it, it's just awful.
It's just it's a bad look. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done, but it's a bad look.
It's going to attract the wrong sort of people who think that this is morally good. Again, you can see it as necessary evil, fine, but it's not morally good. And it's going to attract people who say, no, if we do it, then it must be good. Therefore, it's fine. And I just think it's going to keep going up. And they're going to, again, they're on your balance sheet. They're like, well, you've got a good pair of healthy lungs, kidneys still work, and you've got a good liver. That's worth tens of thousands of dollars, whereas you don't pay that much in taxes. You're in fact a net drain to the public health system, which is why I think that they're generally incentivized to get people to kill themselves. Anyway, moving on, back to the UK. You enjoying our open borders experience?
It's wonderful, isn't it?
No, it's bloody awful. We know that the British government, congenially leftist government, is just colluding with the French to bring traffickers across with their cargo of illegal immigrants that they've trafficked across from Albania or wherever, and they're just cooperating. They're just completely in favour of it. This wasn't a tremendous, not terribly breaking news. This happened at the end of last year.
Yep.
But then it was found out that actually there are illegal immigrants working in the border force.
Yeah.
Which is insufferable. Like, there's one guy who's just, go to the next one, just illegal immigrant. This, again, was like just last month. It was very recent, actually. He was detained while working for the Home Office agency responsible for protecting UK borders. Like, how is an illegal immigrant working for the border force? Are there no checks?
No, he's been here 20 years. You can,
Well, then don't worry about it.
So they can check 20 years, which most organisations won't go beyond your last 3, 4, 5. And they've got a criminal record as well, and they can find out your last 2 addresses. That's usually okay.
But you'd think that the border force might have slightly more stringent.
You would.
But then if they're deliberately trying to get as many of these people in the country, what can you do?
And he may speak a language that the border force think is, we could do with you on our team.
That's true. One drawback, though, is that these illegal immigrants are coming from everywhere. Yeah. So there is no one language. You know, if they're all like, German immigrants, I mean, okay, get a guy who can speak German, fair enough. But no, these are from all over Africa and Asia. So anyway, but just to summarise this is your taxes at work as active patriot out here doing the Lord's work, showing how, look, he's been giving taxpayer money. He's bought himself a little scooter. This is just an illegal immigrant from Iran.
There's a church
Iran?
in London that are buying immigrant scooters.
Oh, right.
They're collecting money, donations,
Got a little
and
scooter.
buying.
Yeah.
Not saying this is one of them.
No.
But there's an article on that.
Yeah. Why is he here? Why is this guy here sapping my taxes?
Yep.
Scooting around his little scooter.
It's because we have a weak government.
It's because we've
with
got a left-wing government.
Weak politicians.
This is all left-wing policies. I mean, maybe he's going to
I
transition.
don't think this is even a policy. I think this is just pure incompetence. And our politicians are scared to do what needs to be done because they're scared of the press, they're scared of a backlash, they're scared of not being voted in again, and they're scared of doing anything. So if you could give a magic wand, they'd stop this tomorrow, the Tory government. I really think they would. But they don't want to do any of the hard work to stop it because they're terrified.
I'm mildly sceptical. I think that actually they're just congenital leftists. I don't think they can help themselves but be leftists. And finally, why are they here? Well, if we go to the next one, they're not all good. One of them, in this particular one, sent a prison for rape. Taking pictures of school kids, the other ones.
Yep.
Shouldn't be here. Welcome to the world under leftism.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to check out all the premium content we have on the site, such as the premium videos we do, this one on the cultural fall of wisdom itself. If you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.